Hello and welcome to the Video Creator Show, where we talk the juicy details of how to succeed on YouTube. And what better way to do that than to talk directly to someone who has done it? Today, I'm speaking with Noah Kane. He is a plant-powered climber trying to share a love of adventure. His YouTube channel has over 315,000 subscribers and over 201 million total channel views. He has a documentary called Climbing Giants about climbing massive trees in Costa Rica. Noah Kane is a legit adventurous spirit, and I'm stoked to speak to him about what he does. But first, the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com, an editing service that helps take the burden of editing off your back. Check out VidChops.com to see how you can save yourself tons of time and energy while taking your YouTube channel to the next level. All right, now into the meaty, juicy, actual interview. Today, I'm speaking with Noah Kane. Noah, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Excited to be on the show, Grant. Thanks.
Yeah, right on. So for those who aren't familiar with you, you are a rock climber, an outdoor rock climber to be exact. It seems like you've traveled all over the world, all over the United States. You have a really thriving YouTube channel. Your shorts do extremely well. Like I said, you have over 200 million total channel views, which is just insane and awesome. So why don't you tell us like how you got started in this space, why you started posting to YouTube, and what your overall goals are here?
Yeah. I'm certainly fortunate to have been able to been going on adventures my whole life. That's just been a part of who I am since really early on. So I'm really lucky to just have that been a part of my identity, and started getting into filmmaking really young, using cameras and video editing, especially as just sort of this amazing form of self-expression. Just really the most powerful form of storytelling that I see sort of available to me. And so I've been making films for 10 years now. And it was on a trip to Costa Rica maybe 3 years ago, which is a place that I spent a lot of time as a kid. I grew up there for about 10 years, from when I was in kindergarten all the way to freshman year of high school. And I was there, and a couple of my friends had started tree climbing, which is kind of unheard of, actually. And they invited me out, and that was sort of my intro to climbing itself. I was not a climber before this. I was certainly active, adventurous, but I had never climbed with ropes, and never so much with any physical sport had my breath been taken away so much than it was with climbing. I just sort of viewed it as this amazing superpower to access things that I would have otherwise thought way too dangerous to try and access, but sort of once you flick that switch of learning to use the gear, learning to use the techniques, and realizing how you can manage the risk pretty reasonably, that was sort of a big spark for me, was that moment. And that's a really interesting way to get into climbing. Most people get into climbing these days through gyms and sort of this more mainstream side of climbing, but I sort of had this like unique intro to it, very unique geographically and unique to this tree type as well. That I can get into more in detail. But for YouTube specifically, I got on YouTube because I wanted to share all of these tree climbing clips that I had been capturing for over maybe 2 years. And I'd been working on this big documentary project. But I've always been intrigued with YouTube. I've been on YouTube for 10 years. I think my channel has been around since 2012. And I've always posted random stuff on there. Lots of old adventure stuff with my friends back when I was in high school, a much more immature version of myself, which I'm sure me in 5 years will also say looking back on myself right now. And I think my big motivation to start posting short form content, I was seeing the reach that it was starting to have. This was the early days of 2020 when short form content was just starting to take off. And I'd flicked that switch in my head of and I think everyone who's over 20 has to do this. TikTok is something that you view as oh, really not that cool. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe I should try it. Maybe the format itself isn't the issue, and maybe just I don't like the aesthetic around it. So I'm just going to try it and see if I can put content up there that I like. And that's what I tried. I started doing it at the beginning of 2020. And then the whole pandemic came through, and for me, the pandemic was fine because outdoor climbing wasn't necessarily limited. Outdoor adventure wasn't necessarily limited. There's nothing stopping me from going, to my local crag and climbing. And so I was able to,
popular.
Yeah, I was able to just, really pump out a lot of content during the year and a half that I sort of viewed the pandemic sort of having this grip on my life. And that was sort of my intro to YouTube. And since then, I've started to gain a lot more traction, a lot with the short form videos, and also looking to produce quality long form videos to sort of build this, diverse storytelling ecosystem, so that if people want a more intimate look at some of the adventures, they can watch the 10, 20-minute videos. And if they just want the sort of shock factor short form content, then they can just consume that as well. Sort of going for the diversity.
Sure. So it seems like the basis of your YouTube success was really you were living your life, and then you happened to just start filming it and posting it. It seemed like you already had a backlog of videos before you even started your channel. Is that right?
I did, yeah. I'd been kind of climbing for 2 years really intensely before I started posting, or really even considering making any sort of social media presence around climbing. It was a pure passion for those first 2 years. And I was filming it because filming has always just been a part of who I am. Filming my rock climbing adventures, filming the tree climbing adventures. And it's sort of one day, I know it seems really obvious now, but to me back then it wasn't obvious. And I sort of had to flick that switch of like saying, okay, let's start posting some of these amazing climbing videos that I've been taking. And since then I've obviously realized the true power of the whole platform. So I spend most of my time dreaming up new adventures that I think will, that I'm really excited about, and that I think the YouTube and TikTok audience will be really excited about as well.
That is sick. So what is your next adventure? Like, what do you got planned?
Good question. I actually have it's a small-ish adventure, but I think I'm really excited about it for the simplicity of the concept. And I think the appeal to a non-climbing audience as well. I'm going to climb up on this kind of really vertical, jagged-looking rock formation that's local in Colorado, where I live. And I'm going to sleep on the top of it, sort of solo camp on the top of this fin. It basically looks like a shark's fin, maybe 400-foot fin of rock, vertical cliff on either side. And my plan is to just sort of sleep on the tippy top and have this really precarious looking sleeping spot that is just comfortable enough to, to set up my sleeping bag, to set up my cook stove, make a nice meal. And it'll be a solo adventure. So I'll be climbing ropeless, but the climb up is pretty easy enough that I feel comfortable at my skill level going without a rope. So I'm excited for that. That's a small adventure that I have in the works.
So I like how climbing to the top of a shark fin rock with no ropes is a small adventure for you. I think that is a good indicator of the kind of mind that you have, and I think it's super dope.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that I'm never going to be the one to be promoting any really big risk taking in climbing. I'm not going to be interested in doing really big free solos or anything that sort of really seems to grip the mass attention so much. I'm a huge advocate for always climbing with a rope and keeping the risk pretty manageable. But this climb itself is just easy enough that I, as someone who considers themselves to be pretty safe, feel really comfortable doing it without a rope.
Mm-hmm, sure. And I think that makes sense. Like the documentaries like Free Solo with Alex Honnold. He's kind of doing his Alex Honnold thing. Yeah. And we don't all have to emulate him. I do some climbing myself, though I haven't done it in a while. I got into it just through a climbing gym.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, and it was awesome, though it was also terrifying the first couple times I did it. Even with the harness and everything, you're still up so high. I mean, these walls at the gym I was at were I think 120 feet high. So they were pretty big.
Yeah.
And I had to overcome some legitimate fear and anxiety up there. I think the first time I did it, I couldn't even get to the top just because I was like, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack or something. But then, you get used to it. You kind of learn to trust the equipment, and that helps a lot. Is just kind of the getting trust for the equipment you're using, and feeling like, oh, you fall off the wall and you're hanging and you're okay, everything's fine.
Yeah. What you just kind of brought up there is, I think, something that really defines my content online. A lot of the big climbing movies are, they're great. I love these big climbing movies. Really hard achievements or really scary achievements like Alex Honnold's Free Solo. Very inspirational. But to the average person who's getting into climbing, like, not really sure if we're going to do that one day. I would describe my content style as much more aspirational. This is stuff that I think, if you're getting into climbing in 2 years, 3 years, you could very realistically be doing a lot of the stuff that I'm trying. And it's sort of like the asset that I have of me myself. Like, I'm only 4 years or so down my journey as a climber. And from a content perspective, that's been really strategic for me, because everything that I find interesting about climbing is also interesting to a lot of the people who are also just getting into climbing, or sort of more intermediate climbers, or even people who aren't interested in climbing at all. But I think just because it's still so fresh in my mind, I'm able to think about, well, what would make climbing interesting to the masses. That's not the most dangerous stuff. So that's sort of like what I really think about.
So what do you think is under that category of something that's interesting to the masses, that has to do with climbing, but that isn't a huge bombastic free solo climb of El Capitan?
For me, getting into climbing, learning some of the equipment, especially when it came to traditional climbing, where we place the gear and the protection in the cracks ourselves rather than having pre-placed bolts. That was always the most intriguing form of technical climbing to me. It just seemed like this really great craft, this blend of using sort of complicated equipment paired with sort of this, you're like this wood carver or this carpenter up there. And it just felt like this amazing craft of learning how to place in the right spot, learning how to judge the rock quality, learning to trust these little things that will hold your weight, but sometimes, to the first time you see them and they look tiny and you're like, that's not going to hold my weight. So a big part of what I find interesting, and I think what a lot of people who are not climbers actually find interesting, is sort of this complexity with the equipment. And sort of, like I said in the beginning, this superpower that understanding the equipment and the systems gives you to be able to access these places, these vertical worlds that no one would be able to access otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking to the popularity of what you just talked about, talking about the complexity of this equipment, your top video is called "An Important Factor When Placing Protection." So exactly what you just talked about, 53 million views.
Yeah, which is really funny, because it's such a simple video. It's 30 seconds and virtually nothing happens in the video. I did not expect that one to do as well as it did, I'll be honest. But I think there's something about that gets people to think about sort of, would they trust it? They put themselves in the shoes of me. I mean, strategically being a point of view video, and then my voiceover in the moment, which I'm delivering while I'm on the rock, by the way. I'm not doing this in post, is sort of talking about the quality of the rock. I think that it just sort of puts the perfect blend of ingredients together for people to say, I'm going to watch this whole video or rewatch it. I think that video has a really high rewatch rate, which makes it so successful in the algorithm's perspective. But it's funny, that video, I recently sent that video to one of the most famous rock climbing filmmakers who I've sort of built a relationship with. He's responsible for making movies like The Dawn Wall, Valley Uprising, The Alpinist, just some of the most famous climbing movies. And I sent it to him, and he was like, wait, what? Nothing happens, and sort of like this almost comically low, this comical simplicity to it. It's like, to people who don't post the short form content, it's pretty interesting that this stuff is even getting that many views, because it's so simple that it almost seems unworthy at the same time.
Well, that is a law of YouTube, is when you're actually posting videos, you can guarantee that the videos that shouldn't go viral do go viral.
Yeah.
The ones that you are the most proud of, nobody will ever see. And this is the law of YouTube. And you must accept this. You must accept it in your heart. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I'm pretty sure it's only
always
Jimmy Donaldson who can predict whether a video will go viral or not. I think the rest of us are just mere mortals and are just guessing. Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast.
Right, yeah. That guy, I mean, he does it right. He basically, Mr. Beast innovated the YouTube intro. The amount of people I see with like a Mr. Beast intro. Hey guys, today we're gonna be doing blah blah blah, and text flying on the screen, and it's very catchy. I like it.
I mean, it's worth noting that I study videos like that. Like, I source almost all of my content inspiration from non-climbing videos, from non-adventure videos. I try to look at what's grabbing people's attention, and then seeing if I can apply not all of it, but some of the inspiration from those videos to my own videos, and then maybe try and like have, I don't know, my own style of authenticity and adventure and all that stuff.
Sure. So what is an example of something where you watched a non-climbing video and you were like, ooh, that's a good idea. I'm going to take that, put it in one of my videos with my own style, obviously not plagiarizing or whatever, but just kind of getting inspiration from somewhere else. What's an example of that?
I think the way that most of these really viral videos these days introduce the video is worth studying for anyone who's making videos out there. Learning how to craft a good hook, when someone like us on a podcast says like, oh, you need a good hook, it is so obvious. And yet when you go to produce your videos, like, even for me, like, I still have to sit down and remind myself every time, like, is this a good hook? Like, I really have to think about it every time. It's not like something that's easy to produce and repeat. And, that's why Mr. Beast has a team of 100 people that are thinking about this stuff. And, us solo creators can only hope of, doing anything close to that in terms of crafting such good concepts and hooks. So definitely trying to understand how the story and concept is introduced in the thumbnail and the title, but also in the first sort of 30 seconds, or in the case of short form videos, the first 7 seconds, really. And for me, it was always a big thing to try and add tension in my videos. Most of the videos that have done really well have some element of tension. And for a short form video, that doesn't need to be a big conflict or like a big story issue. But it can't just be like, this is a perfect world and nothing goes wrong in this world. Like, there has to be some sort of problem that's being solved in the video, some sort of question that's being answered, some sort of mystery that's being learned, whatever. That's the way that I like to think about video concepts, that I think from, being a student of YouTube, that's sort of like what I like to think about the most. That when I was a student in film school, by the way, that's stuff that I just never even really considered when I was like back in my traditional filmmaking days. I think posting short form content especially is the best way to practice storytelling. You're constantly putting out new stuff and experimenting with different styles, and you get this instant feedback of what works and what doesn't. And if you're looking to create long form videos exclusively, and you're thinking that short form videos aren't a way for you to learn how to make long form videos, I guarantee you that short form videos, the frequency and the instantaneous feedback that you get, will help you make any sort of video that you're trying to learn better. For me, short form videos have been like the best education that I've ever received about storytelling, about crafting a narrative. That's sort of like, I'm like such a huge advocate for just trying to post short form content, even if you're not trying to build a business around it.
Sure, and clearly it's worked for you. It seems like the majority of your views are from short form content.
For sure.
Do you have any advice for like how to make short form content, or like how to use it to grow your channel? Because I've heard that one thing about shorts is they don't necessarily get you subscribers or get you a dedicated audience necessarily. So they can kind of accumulate a lot of views, but they don't necessarily translate to a bunch of people who are constantly watching your long form content.
Yeah. No, that's right. I think that they don't necessarily translate to building a community. They translate to subscribers, for sure. Almost a little bit too much. So much to the point where I'm like, are you really subscribing because you want to watch my videos, or are you just subscribing because you just randomly saw this on the shorts feed and you just happen to say, okay, I'll subscribe to this one video I saw? It's almost like shorts are a little bit too easy to get subscribers, which is where there sort of seems to be this issue of like building a number of subscribers too quickly before you really even have a grasp of, well, what even is my content or community all about? And that's something that I've grappled with, that I think I'm on the path to rectifying. And part of that path is through long form content, trying to make sure that those people that want depth can get the depth, and they can get that on a consistent basis. And also trying to output shorts that are really about value. It's easy to think about one viral concept for a short that gets, some of the videos that I have are like 20 million views. But for me, some of the videos that I'm most proud of, maybe they only have 100,000 views, but they were about some sort of little nugget of information or inspiration that I think everyone who watched that video got at least a piece of value from. And I think if you do that consistently with shorts and remain in your niche and service that niche that you think is underserved, like I think the rock climbing niche on YouTube, or even more so the adventure storytelling niche on YouTube, is a little bit underserved, and you're consistently outputting value. To me, I don't see any difference in the format of shorts versus long form content in terms of your ability to build a community, as long as that value and consistency is there.
That makes sense. I think shorts can tend to be more shallow or like bombastic or hammy or something, just because of the nature of the content. So maybe you if you're not careful, you can be likely to attract people who aren't actually interested in the core values of what your channel has to offer. So I like what you said about kind of producing things that have legitimate value and information, and kind of, being true to yourself, I think is really the key here, where you're not just trying to get attention, you're actually trying to give value to people.
Yeah, so it is something that I am still grappling with. If I had built 300,000 subscribers just on long form content, I think the audience would probably be much more engaged than it is right now. But it's also worth noting that maybe that's a lot harder to do these days. And so shorts are sort of this amazing way to kickstart your career, even if you want to make long form content in the end, like I do, or a combination really like I do. And so sort of like, to me, just the main goal is to just provide as much value as possible through both formats. And maybe continue to try and post some of the content that really appeals to the mass audience, but make sure that that's not the main goal, and it does bring in the shorts fund. It doesn't pay a huge amount per view, but like if you're reaching 200 million people, it's certainly like a not an insignificant amount of money that you get from the shorts fund. So it's like, there's definitely a reason to chase the views, and they bring subscribers. And, I think that one video that we mentioned, the one that about an important factor for placing protection, that video alone netted me 70,000 subscribers, which is crazy. Wow. One video alone, one shorts video alone. And my hope is that I get those subscribers to continue to engage a little bit more and to build a community. If I can't get all of them to build a community, that's fine. But I think my goal is to just continue to do that as well as I can.
Totally. And one nice thing, YouTube does purge inactive subscribers eventually. Like my main channel, Treesicle, it it basically has been losing 1,000 subscribers a month for a long time because I haven't been posting to it for like a year. And YouTube will just kind of purge these people who aren't really engaging, which is actually good for your channel. It's like pruning a plant, you know.
Sometimes
you
it is like a thinning
branches
out, yeah.
And yeah, and so having a massive amount of subscribers, a lot of people, they see that number and they're like, oh, wow, this guy's successful. And, you know, you are, but it isn't the end all be all. You know, subscriber count it can be hard when your channel is a bit bloated or it feels bloated. You know, if you have all these subscribers who aren't necessarily interacting, if you do find yourself in that place, it is best to do exactly what you're doing, which is to try to build a core community, kind of a core audience. And do you think you'll ever use something like Patreon or have kind of an offsite thing where you can have a community make some money that way?
For sure. I've been considering Patreon for the past 2 months or so. I'm still really deciding what the real value add of my Patreon would be to a potential member. Is it technical education? You know, maybe not. I'm not a certified rock guide. I certainly have a lot of experience, but maybe I'm not an authoritative voice yet. Just due to the fact of lack of certification to be able to say, I'm going to teach you how to do all of this stuff. Some of my videos are educational. But I hope that people also subscribe for a little bit more than just the technical information.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely something sort of offsite. You know, I've been engaging a lot with these two creators, Colin and Samir, who have been using Reddit as sort of this community building platform. And so I think definitely getting offsite platforms or even using the community tab of YouTube to just engage with your audience in a different way is really valuable. I've been starting to use the community tab just a little bit more to use, you know, to have polls and you know, invite people's feedback on like, well, I have some concepts for the next video. What do you think? And those are actually some of the metrics that I really like to look at. You know, I put up a poll and like, you know, I think maybe 2,500 people voted in the poll. And like, to me, that's the metric that I care about the most, you know. All right, so now we're looking at real numbers of a community. That's 2,500 people that cared enough to engage with a poll that I put out, or to engage with like, you know, a potential question of me starting my own signature sunglass brand because I wear these sort of distinct sunglasses all the time.
The heart ones?
Yeah, the heart ones. I look at the numbers of how many people are commenting, and if I can sort of see people regularly commenting, those are sort of the metrics that I really use to gauge whether I'm building a community or not. Instagram DMs, you know, I sort of have on my link tree, which is sort of the platform that people can go to all my stuff. I tell people to DM me on Instagram because like I love getting a DM on Instagram from someone, and I probably get one about every day. Someone being like, hey, I'm a huge fan of your work. I love your videos, and I'm like just getting into climbing. Like, and maybe they have a question, or maybe they even ask me if I want to do a route with them in their area or something. And that's to me the best gauge of whether I'm building a community. And my favorite way to engage with the community is honestly through direct messaging. I definitely try to respond to every DM that I get, and I try to respond to most of the comments that people leave.
Sure. And for someone in your situation, I would recommend making a Discord server if you haven't already.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's the nice thing about it is it's amazing for building communities. It is so easy to just have people, they click the link, they can join the community, and then people are able to talk to each other. You're obviously able to join in as everybody's talking amongst themselves. It can be a really good experience if that is your goal, is to build an online community. It can, the disadvantage is maybe it can eat up a lot of time, but it depends how much time you want to put into it, of course.
Yeah.
You'll definitely get more DMs through Discord, I think, than Instagram. You will, I think you would have a very successful community on Discord. I would recommend, so if you were going to go the Patreon route and the Discord route, I would recommend having like a very small paywall. But your community might be more wholesome. So I'm going to share my experience with
Sure.
the
Yeah, I'd
Discord
love
server.
to. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So my channel Treesicle is a gaming channel, and we started the Discord server and just let anybody join. 90% of the people were awesome. 10% were a little iffy, and 5% were like they were just not good. So the point is, when you have a server that anybody can join for any reason, you can get some weirdos in there. But we were getting a ton of like gaming views, and our humor was kind of edgy, so it's possible we attracted a certain audience of people. I think your content is a bit more wholesome, but you never know. The point is, if you just let anybody join, you might find it's a bit of a headache. Whereas if you put it behind like a $2 paywall, like $2 per month or something, then you will have a much tighter knit, better community. But again, totally up to you. But just keep in mind a small paywall. It makes you some money, and it kind of keeps people. There's something about even paying like $1 or $2 a month that I think keeps the people out who were just kind of looking to cause trouble, because they're not really that hardworking. They're not dedicated to any cause or anything. So you can kind of just like keep them away by doing that.
This probably shows how little I know about Discord. Discord has a paywall function.
It does not.
It does not.
So
okay.
Patreon, you use Patreon to have the paywall, and then when somebody joins your Patreon for $2 a month or whatever, then you send them the Discord link.
Okay, so it's sort of this like platform to platform. I got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
thanks for the tip.
Yeah, totally. Like, so just to kind of give you a difference. So Treesicle's Discord server did not have a paywall. There was a lot of chaos in there. It was still fun. Most of the people were cool. But again, there's a lot of weirdos, some weirdos. Then the second channel I helped start, Bonsai Pop, is an anime channel that currently has a thriving Discord community, and that is behind a paywall. And I think the longevity of that community is because of the very small paywall, among other things. But
yeah.
it definitely helped. Just some 2 cents there from a guy who's built a couple of servers.
No, those are so great. To be honest, it's almost embarrassing how little effort I truly put into the monetization right now. I'm sort of so focused on I want to make the best videos possible that I haven't even really put much thought into the monetization. I've never reached out to brands. I've only accepted brand deals that have been reaching out to me. I'm sort of this really passive monetization function right now, and it's like it's enough. It's fine as is, but I know that if I put in the effort with tips and ideas like that I could probably do a little bit better for myself.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And it also just might mean you're not ready to do that. You don't feel like it. That's a totally valid reason. At some point you might. And like, at least for me, it took me, so I mean, I've been on YouTube, it'll be 8 years in January. I was basically in the same mindset as you until like, I don't know, maybe a year ago, where monetization was kind of secondary. I did make money. I was able to make a living, but I wasn't really trying to. It was just I made videos I thought were cool, and the people on my team were better at monetizing things, getting brand deals, talking to people, things like that. I was just kind of a creative guy, essentially. But at some point, you may change your mind and get more interested in these things. That's totally cool. I think it's just part of the YouTube journey of like, what are your priorities right now?
For sure. And for reference, I was looking at my analytics this morning, and I actually, I'm always thinking about titles and sort of catchy things, and I love the way that you've been titling your episodes lately, and this might even be a great way to title this episode if this one goes out. Last year, literally on this date, I had 333 subscribers 1 year ago today. So for reference, I've really only been on this quote unquote successful YouTube journey for 9 months, 10 months, something like that. It was in September of last year that I started posting shorts really frequently, and then they started growing a lot. Maybe I hit 100,000 subscribers in November of 2021, December of 2021, So it's been a sort of like hockey stick growth. If you were to look at the lifetime subscriber count of my YouTube channel, so I'm fresh. That's what I'm trying to say for reference. So a lot of this monetization stuff, I just haven't really put in the work to like to sort of like fledge it all out yet. Just sort of in the dark still.
Yeah, totally get it. The fact that you've grown this much in a year is awesome. I am curious, how has this affected your life? I'm guessing it's mostly positive, but like the fact that 1 year you went from 300 subscribers to over 350,000. I mean, that surely has been a huge upheaval in like how you perceive yourself and what your day to day looks like, or is it?
For sure. Well, also for reference, I'm still a college student, which might be a little bit surprising, but I'm finishing out my senior year of college this year. I have a semester left. So sort of this whole YouTube journey has been taking place with sort of it's the second thing it's my second priority, basically. School being the number one priority, and YouTube has been what I've been doing for the last year in my free time away from school. And before that, I was making most of my money doing client video work. So that's sort of the biggest way that it's probably changed my life, is this shift in my income from client video work to YouTube, and it's been an incredibly positive transition, much more stable. The YouTube AdSense payments are sort of the first thing that I've ever had that is like feels like a regular paycheck, which is amazing. And then brand deals on top of that have supplemented together to be like a really, a great full-time income despite being still a full-time student. It's given me an incredible amount of confidence to just efficiently transition out of school and just be totally stable.
That is awesome. I totally get it. So I started my YouTube channel around the same time, actually. It started taking off senior year of college, and it gave me a ton of confidence. Most people I talk to, you might be having this experience right now where most people you talk to are like very nervous about graduating. They're kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Is my life going to be boring after I graduate? Or is college the best years of my life? YouTube kind of gave me this feeling of, no, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. I know what I'm doing. I'm thrilled. And I felt really grateful for that. It did feel like it gave me a purpose after graduating that I otherwise may not have had.
Yeah. And for me, it's almost like a direction too. It's like, I feel like my YouTube vision is to sort of go from project to project, challenge to challenge. And I'll kind of throw out what my vision is for a big project that'll take place next summer. Very much so inspired by what Ryan Trahan did, which I think was one of the most legendary, iconic series ever created on YouTube, which was his 30-day daily vlog series traveling across America with just a penny. My idea, inspired by that format, is to do climbing the 50 states in 50 days. That's sort of the title of it. And it would be rock climbing some big formation in every state and doing it with this time crunch in 50 days. And that includes going to Hawaii, going to Alaska, and that includes the road trip, going everywhere. I'm not flying to each state. I'm road tripping from Oregon to California to Nevada to Arizona. That's sort of this big vision I have for a big YouTube project. And the media side of it is to release a daily episode from the journey in real time. And that's sort of a big project that I've been toiling over for the past couple of weeks, thinking about, well, okay, maybe I can get a sponsor, maybe I can get a couple sponsorships, maybe it's sort of a community-funded project. Who knows? But that's just sort of an idea that I'm toiling over and planning on, and ideas like that are sort of what get me really excited and really stoked for having this platform and this community that would love something like that would absolutely love to tune in, because people want to see, well, what is climbing like in my state? Even if my state is Nebraska, where maybe it's just a boulder in the middle of a field, or it's California, where maybe we do a really big objective. Just sort of this amazing diversity and an amazing way to explore places that us climbers would never really go. if it weren't for a big project like this.
Mm-hmm. That sounds awesome, dude. I'm all for that. That sounds like a blast. It sounds really hard, but also, I mean, I'd tune in for that for sure. I feel like that kind of thing is also really good for giving direction as well. Like a daily vlog type thing. I've seen it work wonders. I mean, Casey Neistat did that for years. And I think for a channel like yours, that sounds, I don't know, it just sounds perfect or something.
It just sounds like it would fit, yeah. And I think for me, daily vlogging seems really exciting in bursts, not not in perpetuity, but in like sort of like dedicated sort of 50 episodes, and that's it. After that, we're not going to continue it. That seems manageable to me.
Yeah, and it's like you go really hard for 50 days, and then you can kind of like take a step back, see how it's affected the channel. I assume you're going to see some pretty serious growth and interest. I assume you're going to be making long form videos, not shorts, or were you going to make shorts?
My intention would be a combination. Obviously, I mean, I think trying to reach people on these dual formats, because some people only consume short form content, and some people exclusively consume long form content, and yet those two people might both enjoy the series at the same time. So obviously the idea is to hire an editor that is along with us for the entire journey, so that we aren't having to do this insane amount of editing work on top of having to do 6 hours of climbing every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, imagine having to climb 6 hours, and then you're like, all right, time to edit this video.
Yeah, that would be awful. We could do it, but I would need a really big nap after the whole trip.
Yeah, like you'd probably have to sleep for a couple months for sure.
Yeah. Something that I really like to think about as well is trying to merge communities on YouTube. Gaming is such a big one. You mentioned your channel sort of being part of gaming, and I think I love sort of like seeing if I can make content in my niche that appeals to people in other communities. And so I've been playing with this idea that I'll probably start experimenting with as a short form content. Again, going back to my point that short form content is like the best way to experiment with potential long form content. This idea of climbing, but it's a video game. So it's real life shots that I've taken, clips that I've taken, POV angles. And there's sort of all the sort of like gear inventory that you would have on a video game, or like different levels that are unlocked if you do something, and maybe it's sort of still playing into the climbing niche and things that climbers on the inside would find funny, but it's sort of in the viewing format that a video game screen would be. And so ideas like that excite me because it's the blending of two potential communities on YouTube that could potentially enjoy it from different reasons, sort of like, yeah, or energy level, basically, or power level, and sort of like all these different things that you would see on the screen of a game if climbing were a game.
Totally, you got the gaming user interface going on. All the stats, and you could just have a massive fall, and then your HP drops to 0. I think that would be totally worth.
Yeah, or like every hold you get is like a little extra point of XP or something.
Yeah,
you just get a little bit more.
Or your stamina is slowly going down until you like rest for.
Yeah, until you rest, and then it starts going back up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm all for it. That sounds dope, dude.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm telling you a lot of ideas right now, but I'm excited about all of them. I think my favorite part of this whole journey is the idea part of it, because it's just so nice to have this pure idea in your head, even if you tell it to people and they don't necessarily get it. You're just like, I'm just still so excited about this, and there's nothing more exciting than constantly having an idea to move forward with. It's like you're constantly looking forward and having something to sort of like give you this direction, a reason to wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. That I know what you're talking about. That feeling of the pure idea is inspiring. It's energizing. It's like it exists in the realm of potential. and it can feel like there's just maximum potential. You know
Yeah.
how the idea makes you feel, and you're excited to make other people feel the same way. But if they can see the fruits of your idea, then you've kind of transferred the feeling onto them, and there's a kind of contagious excitement about that. And it's, man, that feeling has got me very far in life, and I'm stoked that you. I feel like that's just kind of part of being creative, is having that feeling.
For sure.
And it's kind of magical.
Yeah.
So yeah, like now at this point, you have these big ideas. You've got a very successful channel. You're making long form content, but also a lot of short form content that is doing really well. So once you graduate, it sounds like that's when you're going to start pursuing these kind of bigger, a little more different ideas. More seriously. Are you going to like take a break after graduation, or are you just going to go for it?
Who knows? Because taking breaks for me is sometimes such a gray area, because a break might be going on a climbing trip where I bring my camera and maybe I'm not necessarily doing any editing, which feels like a great break, but I'm definitely filming and keeping the YouTube channel in mind. Vacation, I'm the type of person who I go crazy after about 3 or 4 days of vacation, true vacation, not doing anything, sort of like quote unquote productive. So I don't feel like I need a break. I'm incredibly stoked. I'm incredibly hungry at the moment. For me, what gives me the most drive and the feeling of just thriving is being on sort of the mission of making these ideas happen, these projects happen. And I've been able to do it in small bits throughout school and longer bits throughout summer. And I'm excited to just sort of have this immense amount of time to dedicate to some of these grander visions that I've had. Grander climbing objectives, still trying to stay true to my journey as a climber, and also grander YouTube objectives. Sometimes those two things meet in the middle, and sometimes they're different as well.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, hey man, it's been awesome talking to you. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, pitch anything you want to pitch, whether it's your documentary, your TikTok, Instagram, obviously your YouTube channel is Noah Kane, but be shameless.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Noah_Kane. And you can find my documentary for now on climbing-giants.com. And it is a documentary about tree climbers in Costa Rica, sort of pioneering their way, pioneering this crazy, weird little niche sport that is sort of rock climbing reimagined on the bark of these crazy trees in Costa Rica. And that's it. That's all, Maybe talk to me in 3 months and I'll have a Discord and a Patreon and all that stuff. But for now, I'm keeping it pretty simple. The YouTube is the way to go. Yeah, YouTube channel is you'll find everything important on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Well, yeah, go check him out. Noah Kane. It's been awesome, dude. I love your perspective on things. I'm excited for your ideas. I know you're going to go for them. I can tell. And I feel like it is going to work out. I don't know. I get a feeling talking to people sometimes. And I like it. I love it. I'm stoked for you. And it seems like you're in a good place. And I always love seeing that.
Well, Grant, thanks so much for having me on the show. Likewise, let's stay in touch. I'm excited to sort of be on this journey together.
Yeah, dude. All right. Well, that's a wrap, everybody. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, so you can hear my voice in every single episode. This is sponsored by VidChops.com. Don't forget, take the burden of editing off your back. Why not? It'll save you time and probably even money. And with that it's time for me to say goodbye. Bye, everybody.